They looked like ordinary people, neighbors, co-workers, even family men. But behind their calm faces hid nightmares that changed history. From cold-blooded masterminds to killers who vanished without a trace, these are the most chilling murderers of the modern age. London, 1888. The East End was a maze of narrow alleys, dimly lit streets, and overcrowded housing. Poverty and desperation filled the air. In this harsh environment, Jack the Ripper hunted women who worked as prostitutes, targeting the most vulnerable. Over several months, he killed at least 5 women: Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. Each murder was more brutal than the last. Victims were stabbed, slashed, and mutilated in ways that suggested anatomical knowledge. The police were overwhelmed. Crime scene procedures were primitive, and the press sensationalized the murders, calling the killer Jack the Ripper, after a letter supposedly sent by him. Hundreds of suspects were interrogated, from local butchers to doctors, but no one was ever charged. The mystery became legendary, inspiring countless books, films, and theories. Even today, Jack the Ripper remains the most famous unsolved serial killer in history. During the 1893 Chicago World's Fair, a charismatic doctor built what locals would later call the Murder Castle. The 6-story building had hidden rooms, trapdoors, gas chambers, and soundproof walls. Holmes lured young women into his hotel, promising jobs or lodging. Once inside, he killed them in horrifying ways: strangulation, poison, or gas, then disposed of the bodies in the basement or through secret passages. Holmes was motivated by greed as well as psychopathy. He sold the skeletons of victims to medical schools and took out life insurance policies in their names. Despite multiple missing persons reports, the complexity of the building and poor police coordination allowed him to continue his crimes for years. He was finally arrested in 1894 and confessed to 27 murders, though some historians believe the number exceeded 200. Andrei Chikatilo grew up in a famine-stricken Ukraine, where starvation and violence were part of daily life. He seemed quiet and ordinary, marrying and working as a teacher. Yet, between 1978 and 1990, he became one of the most notorious serial killers of the Soviet era. Chikatilo lured children and women to remote areas, often near train stations or forests. He attacked with extreme brutality, stabbing, mutilating, and sometimes cannibalizing parts of his victims. Soviet authorities initially denied the existence of serial killers, complicating investigations. Despite numerous close calls, Chikatilo evaded capture for years. In 1990, after a long manhunt, he was arrested and confessed to 56 murders. Executed in 1994, his case exposed the dark failures of law enforcement and the human cost of denial in the Soviet Union. Ted Bundy presented himself as an intelligent, charming, and educated man. He volunteered in political campaigns, worked at community centers, and appeared helpful and trustworthy. But beneath that facade was a calculating predator. Bundy kidnapped young women, often approaching them in public, feigning injury or pretending to need help. Once isolated, he would assault, torture, and murder them. His crimes spanned multiple U.S. states, and he became a master of escape, fleeing custody twice. His trials were media sensations, and the public was horrified by his dual nature: the handsome, articulate man versus the brutal killer. He confessed to over 30 murders and was executed in 1989. Between 1968 and 1969, the Zodiac killer terrorized Northern California. Using letters, symbols, and ciphers, he mocked the police and media while claiming responsibility for multiple murders. He targeted couples and lone individuals, attacking them in remote locations. Some letters contained complex codes, one of which remained unsolved for over 50 years. Despite investigations, multiple suspects, and countless theories, his identity remains unknown. The Zodiac's combination of intelligence, elusiveness, and audacity made him one of the most notorious unsolved cases of the 20th century. John Wayne Gacy appeared to be a friendly, community-oriented man in 1970 Chicago. He volunteered at charities, hosted parties, and even performed as a clown at children's events. But behind this mask, he lured young men to his home, where he would sexually assault and murder them. Over 6 years, Gacy killed at least 33 victims, burying many in the crawl space under his house. Police finally discovered his crimes in 1978. His double life shocked the nation. A charming man on the surface hiding one of the most horrifying serial killer careers in U.S. history. Aileen Wuornos was born in 1956 in Michigan, growing up with abuse and neglect. She ran away from home as a teenager and became a prostitute along Florida highways. Between 1989 and 1990, she killed 7 men, claiming self-defense against sexual assault. Her method was simple but terrifying. She would pick up men on isolated roads and after a brief encounter, shoot them. The bodies were left in remote locations, creating fear and confusion across the local communities. Known as the Highway Killer, her crimes drew national attention. Investigators pieced together patterns from her victims and eventually arrested her in 1990. During her trial, her traumatic childhood, mental struggles, and violent tendencies came to light. She was convicted and sentenced to death, executed by lethal injection in 2002. Her story inspired films, documentaries, and discussions about gender, violence, and the effects of early childhood trauma, marking her as one of the most infamous female serial killers in history. In 1959, 9 experienced hikers ventured into the Ural Mountains in the Soviet Union and never returned. Their tent was found ripped open from the inside, and their bodies were scattered in strange positions across the snow. Some were partially undressed, others with fractured skulls and broken ribs. Investigations suggested various causes: avalanche, secret military tests, UFOs, or psychological panic, but none fully explained the scene. The Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the most baffling and eerie mysteries in modern history, drawing researchers and thrill seekers alike. In 1922, a family of 6 was brutally murdered on a remote German farm. Days prior, neighbors reported seeing strange figures and hearing footsteps, but no one investigated. The bodies were found days later, killed with a mattock, the mother, father, and children all victims. Mysteriously, some signs suggested the killer had stayed in the house for days after the murders, feeding the livestock. Despite numerous suspects and investigations, the case was never solved. Hinterkaifeck remains one of the most chilling unsolved family murders in history. Monsters like these show us that evil isn't always born in darkness. Sometimes it grows among us, smiling, speaking politely, and waiting for its chance. Their stories are warnings, not just about death, but about human nature itself. If you found this documentary chilling and fascinating, don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more deep dives into history's darkest mysteries. Which story shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments.